Well, Lorenzo returns to the grid. This is Alvaro Bautista. Starts from the 4th row of the grid. He has qualified 10th fastest, 11th in the World Championship. But he's got podium finishes here in 125 and 250. But not a lot of smiles on the grid. This is serious stuff for the riders. This is really tough.
Sorry to butt in there, guys. I'm just down here with Stefan Bradl, 3rd on the grid. They are just changing the front tyre. It's wearing carbon discs, which means that is going to be a slick. Other teams are no doubt going to be very attentive to that. I'll see if I can... we've got Dani Pedrosa next to him, steel disc, so he'll be on a wet tyre just now. Marquez has his tyres 2 covered. I can't see whether that's a carbon disc or what he's got under there.
Well done, Dylan. This is what it's all about, right from the front, isn't it? We're getting the news as it happens.
I mean,
there is a smile from Johnny Hernandez, by the way. Yeah. Sorry, Dylan.
No, I was going to say, if you look down the main straight, like Nicky said, you know, he obviously spoke about this part of the track. You guys couldn't see what he was pointing out, but he was going down the home straight, down to the right, so down the hill, the slower section. And he said it's then wet as you're heading round into the faster and back down the hill. That's where it's wet, so that's then where you wonder where you could take the risk.
Yeah, and that's the last place you do want to take the risk, because there are some fast corners there. Nicky Hayden's face says it all as well, doesn't it?
Nicky Hayden very, very good here yesterday in the dry as well. He topped Q1 qualifying and moved straight through into the top 10 shootout, then went to qualify 12th on the grid, just behind Bautista and Dovizioso on row 4. Jorge Lorenzo then, quite a surprise. He's never won a Grand Prix in his World Championship career here at the Sachsenring. Starts in the middle of the 2nd row of the grid this afternoon. Has finished 2nd though here 4 times. So 4 second places in Germany, but never a win.
Yeah, couple of podium finishes. It's been a really disappointing season for Jorge Lorenzo. He's really looked on the pace this weekend. And Marquez said yesterday he thinks he's the biggest threat, but this has thrown everything into confusion. As we keep saying, if it was wet, great. If it's dry, great. But we got that horrible middle bit now, and nobody's quite sure what to do. It looks like Stefan Bradl is the man who's perhaps made the first move for those men at the front. Yeah,
I've just managed to get a sneaky look at Marquez's brake disc, so he's got steel, so he'd also still be on the wet tyre for now. But again, big discussion going on over it. It's only at Stefan Bradl's bike where there's a lot of activity and that slick coming on. I think a lot of guys, what they might do is they might do the warm-up lap and might start from pit lane, because we saw some wrong judgments last time out in Aston. Valentino Rossi, Paula Spago, they started on slicks, they were overconfident.
Here's Andrea Dovizioso. They may be down in 11th place, but these conditions certainly suited him at Assen, where he put that Ducati into 2nd place. 3rd here in 2012, and currently running in 4th place in the World Championship on the Ducati.
Yeah, that 2nd place at Aston last time out was actually the best Ducati result since Misano a couple of years ago, and Valentino Rossi finished 2nd that day, but they had been testing there not long before the race. What about Scott Redding then? Lines up 14th on the grid, the 2nd best customer Honda rider on the grid. Hayden obviously leads the charge for the RCV 1000Rs from 12th, but Redding starts just behind Johnny Hernandez on row 5 in 14th position.
Guys, I'm just down here with Massimo Meregali from Yamaha. Mayo, last time out, Valentino took the gamble to start with slicks. It almost looks drier now, but it doesn't look like he's switched. Oh, sorry, Mayo was just being called onto the radio there as we spoke. but this just highlights the situation down here. It just highlights, it's absolutely frantic.
I can imagine. And time is running out. We have 6 minutes remaining before the start of the race, and looks like problems here for Michael Laverty.
Yeah, so they're pushing that PBM bike back towards the garage at the moment. But this is a day of opportunities for the likes of Laverty, his teammate Brock Parks, and even this man, Hiroshi Ayama, who lines up 16th. He heads the 6th row of the grid. With these mixed conditions, you need to look out for people like this. In fact, Hiroshi Ayama did lead the race in Holland 15 days ago.
He did.
Very briefly, but he did.
Here's Marc Marquez. Okay. Chasing his 9th successive Grand Prix victory, his 5th successive win here at the Sachsenring. 21 years old, 125 Moto2 MotoGP World Champion.
Right, guys, update on the slicks. Bradl, Oyama, Abraham. Those are the only ones that are now going to start on slicks. I did manage to get a quick word with Meregali. Absolutely frantic, but all the other guys are going to be starting on the wet, and then consider basically starting from pit lane, so changing in pit lane and starting from there if they feel that it's dry enough.
Colin Edwards, of course, retires at the end of the season. He'll miss Grand Prix racing. He probably won't miss lining up on the grid in this situation, though, when decisions have to be made. I must admit, I'm surprised that perhaps a few more riders towards the back of the grid haven't gone for the gamble. So Karel Abraham, Hiroshi Oyama, former winner here, and Stefan Bradl. That is a really big gamble by Stefan Bradl to go on slicks. 5 minutes before the start of round 9, the MotoGP World Championship. We'll all be looking at that car going round as well, just to see how wet it is, perhaps at these turns. 12, I think, is probably where it is a little bit wet, perhaps at the top of the hill as well.
Start, finish straight is dry, huh? Start, finish straight is now dry.
There you go. Yeah,
Well,
the warm-up, the final sighting lap, sorry, is going to be crucial, isn't it?
Bradl, yeah, exactly. I was going to say the same thing, actually. Look at the tyres here on the front of the Marquez bike. Everybody just having a quick look at the tyre warmers. But those riders then who didn't spot it are starting on 6. Bradl, Oyama and Abraham. Bradl starts 3rd. He's going to be a hero or a zero, isn't he, very quickly in this race. Oyama and Abraham start together. Row 6, 16th for Oyama, 17th for Abraham. It looks as though we've got another very busy afternoon in front of us here.
There we go. Confirmation of the tyre choice. Slick. Stefan Bradl, Marquez and Pedrosa. Wet, soft, 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 all the soft, but if it's wet or dry, that is the big thing. That is a big, big decision by Stefan Bradl and his team. Is it a decision that may pay off? This is the front row of the grid. Stefan Bradl, 6 times winner here at the Sachsenring. Dani Pedrosa, despite 2 crashes in practice and qualifying. And in pole position, despite a crash on Friday morning, is Marc Marquez, chasing his 9th successive Grand Prix victory, his 5th successive win here at the Sachsenring. Will the conditions play a big part in this 30-lap race? So welcome back to the Sachsenring. I'm Nick Harris, sitting alongside me Gregory Haynes, down in pit lane, a very busy man indeed. It's Dylan Gray.
It's an all-Honda front row then for the first time since Argentina. The same order as Argentina as well. Marc is on pole for the 7th time out of 9 races this year. Pedrosa and then the local hero Bradl alongside them. Alicia Spago with the open bike. Row 2 ahead of the 2 factory Ducatis of Jorge Lorenzo and Valentino Rossi.
Row 3, Andrea Iannone, Paula Spago and Bradley Smith. 4 crashes for Bradley Smith this weekend. Alvaro Bautista, Andrea Dovizioso would have liked the rain. It's drying now. And Nicky Hayden.
Remember the riders starting on slick tyres. We have had some rain here. Bradl, who's 3rd on the grid, and then 16th and 17th. Oyama and Abraham there in slick tyre situations. 18th was supposed to be Michael Laverty, but he's missing at the moment. We saw the bike being pushed back down the pit lane towards the back of the grid. Then more riders missing. Edwards from Barbara. We should have Mike DeMeglio in there. And then at the back of the grid, it's only 2 riders anyway. Parks ahead of Petrucci. Don't forget, Brock Parks finished a fantastic 11th for PBM at Assen 2 weeks ago. But this is the order of the day. Again, tyres.
Tyres is the big story. The big gamble comes from number 6 at his home Grand Prix, Stefan Bradl. That is a massive, massive gamble. He's on slick tyres. This is going to be a very important final sighting lap.
Yeah, this is by far the most important warm-up lap of the season so far. How many of these riders may be diving into the pit lane and starting from the pit lane because they wish to change from wet to slick tyres? They're certainly readying bikes down there in the pit lane. This man Bradl, though, from 3rd on the grid, is already on full slick configuration.
Right, let's have a look at the track conditions. Nicky Hayden told us in that chat on the line with Dylan that it's not here that we're worried about. It's the faster part of the corners, the faster part of the circuit, where it is a little bit damp.
So making their way around, it's tentative stuff, isn't it, on this warm-up lap. Watch for the likes, though, of Petrucci and Anders. These are all riders who could be benefiting from a mixed weather condition situation today. At the moment, it is not raining here.
Seems okay here. There's at the bottom of the hill, turn 8. Then they start the climb up towards 9 and 10. 89,401 spectators here. They are ready for action. Round 9 of the MotoGP World Championship. Now, how wet is the track? The riders on their final sighting lap. Round 9 of the MotoGP World Championship. Can you believe it? We're on a drying track once again. And Stefan Bradl on that front row of the grid has taken a massive gamble with slick tyres. And as we can see from the helicopter shot, it's still not completely dry.
Only 3 riders then on slicks for the time being. Bradl, Hiroshi Oyama and Abraham, but that's changing right now. Everybody diving in. All of these riders will have to start from the pit lane. This is going to be the thinnest starting grid we've ever seen. What a scene then here in Germany, 30 laps ahead of them. Now they need to just switch calmly from wets to slicks, and then we've got the starting lights.
And this is actually quite a dangerous situation here. We've almost seen Rossi and Crutchlow touch, because obviously they're trying to change bikes as quick as possible and get to the front, because they want to start first from pit lane.
Oh, and they're trying to get some heat into their tyres. You can see from Dani Pedrosa. Whoa, look at that. It's a queue outside the supermarket. It's not a MotoGP race. A unique situation. We have never seen this before. Stefan Bradl on his own. Yes, this is round 9 of the MotoGP World Championship, and we are underway, but all the action is going to be in pit lane.
It's going to be like a horse race on the right-hand side of the screen. Bradl leads down into turn 1, and the cavalry charge is underway as they make their way down towards this very, very difficult first corner. And it's a thinner line than ever because they've all got to be careful. Lorenzo cuts across the curbs on the inside. Hand up from Jorge Lorenzo allows Pedrosa back in front of him because of that. This is the charge then. All of these riders now on slick tyres, but the rest of them have disappeared off into the distance. Bradl leads.
Well, they had a look on that final sighting lap. They made the decision. They obviously think it is dry enough. The track is drying rapidly. It's drying in front of our very eyes. And Stefan Bradl may have made the decision of a lifetime to go with slick tyres.
What an order. Who on earth would have predicted that? Bradl leads the German Grand Prix from Laverty, Petrucci, Oyama, Di Meglio. Abraham is 6th from Colin Edwards. Barbara Parks is 9th. Marc is in the leader of this second race, as it is at the moment, in 10th position.
Stefan Bradl leads the German Grand Prix, plunges downhill. This is where he has got to be careful. You can see it's not completely dry down at the Saxon curve. A little bit of spray came off his rear tyre there. These are the guys that will be happy there. They are on the slick tyre, on the wet tyres, but they're going to have to come in, aren't they? Because that is just going to burn the rubber off them. Just got to be a bit patient, I think, in these early laps, but after that, they are going to be in. I've never seen a start like that in my life of Grand Prix racing.
Absolutely unique. Don't forget, only 3 riders decided to start the race on the grid on slicks. They were Bradl, Hiroshi Oyama and Abraham. The likes, though, of Laverty and Petrucci still on wets at the moment, up in 2nd and 3rd place. But look how quickly now Brock Parks is being caught by Marquez. Pedrosa 2nd in the bunch, but 11th on the road. It's quite confusing, isn't it? Look at Bradley Smith running wide in the background. He's just been passed by Aleix Spago and also Valentino Rossi. Did you notice, by the way, how wet it still is? It's much damper over at the turn 12 section. They have to coast their way through there, those on slicks.
We ride with Marquez. He obviously knew that he had to come in. Masterstroke, LCR Honda, Lucio Cecchinello, all of them around him. Stefan Bradl, very brave move for Stefan Bradl. He's gone with slicks from the start. Never ever will he have a better chance of winning a Grand Prix race, and it is home Grand Prix. But the pack are after him. They will carve through these riders on the wet weather tyres like a knife through butter, and it's a long race. We still have 28 and a half laps to go.
Yes, no jump starts for anybody on the starting grid, so that's good news, but there are only a few of them on there, weren't there? Up to the Saxon curve then, Michael Laverty attacking Danilo Petrucci, who has now moved up into 2nd place, but here's what I'm talking about. It's much greasier and very slippery around here at the Saxon curve, and soon you'll have the likes of the Repsol Honda bikes attacking this lot. Look in the background, Colin Edwards is there. Now Marquez, he's passed Brock Parks, he's now attacking the 2 Avinti riders, he's passed Hector Barbera, he's passing Di Meglio as well.
Carving his way through at turn 13. It just looks like the entrance to turn 12 and the exit, that seems to be the wet bit. They're on the dry now as they come down towards turn 1. Look at Marquez, races his way through, races past Colin Edwards down into turn 1. This is where he crashed, just coming out of here, turn 2 on Friday morning, when he inadvertently flicked the bike into 3rd gear and it high-sided him off. Marquez on the charge, but can it be enough? Bradl, I can't speak highly enough of the bravery of the team and him to go with slicks. And all the others realised when they went out on that final sighting lap, yes, he has made the right decision.
Tell you what, I bet Lucio Cecchinello had spotters all around this circuit at every single corner. Look at Marquez slicing through there on the inside of Hiroshi Oyama. Don't forget, Hiroshi Oyama started this race on slick tyres, as did Abraham and Bradl, who, as we know, leads the race. So many riders dive for the pit lane to change for slicks and had to start from the pits. for that reason. Bradl's lead was 2.6 seconds over Petrucci at the start of this lap. We're on to lap 4 of 30 now, so still 27.5 to go. Pedrosa, look at that though, Pedrosa was 2.4 seconds quicker than Stefan Bradl on this lap.
Yeah, so whereas Bradl's made the right decision, but he's got to run at the sort of pace these guys are running at, and that doesn't appear to be the case at the moment. Slices his way past Michael Lafferty, Marquez. This is where was at its dampest as he comes up now through turn 13 onto that 700-metre long start and finish straight.
Yes, it was almost
Marquez
contact.
followed by Pedrosa.
Sorry, almost contact there between Abraham and Hirashiyama at the final corner. Don't forget they started on 6, just as Bradl did. What an unprecedented situation this is. 27 to go. Here's the man who leads, to the delight of the German crowd, and they're in the World Cup final as well tonight. What's happened here, though?
Big moment there for Stefan Bradl at the top of the hill as he plunges down the waterfall. That's why he's not increasing that lead at the front. That's why he's being very, very careful indeed. And you've got to say he took the gamble. Well, he's not running the pace we thought he might be able to at the front, whereas Marquez and Pedrosa seem quite capable of going faster and faster. And another crash, would you believe, for Bradley Smith, his 5th of the weekend.
Yes, 3 in practice, 1 in qualifying, and now 1 in the race itself. He is rejoining the race, though, by the looks of things. Dylan Gray down in the pit lane.
Yes, we are getting some incredibly light spits of rain. It's nothing that's going to affect the guys at the moment, but if it gets any heavier, then then it could throw things once again.
Look at this, Marquez just squeezing through on Petrucci. There was a brief touch there between Marquez and the left knee of Danilo Petrucci. What a battle this is between the two of them. They're both running around together up into turn 13. Petrucci is still on wet at the moment, don't forget. But this part of the track is wetter than the other parts of the track.
Oscar Arrow to speed it up at the front, because now Marquez and Pedrosa have already got him in his sights. He took the gamble, Stefan Bradl, had that horrible moment up at turn 11, and that has slowed him. But now then, once again, as it was in Assen, all eyes turn to the sky. Will the rain return? Will the guys out there on wet weather tyres still have the last laugh? Will they have to come in for flag to flag? It's a long, long way to go.
It's all in Mother Nature's hands again. Look at this. It's Lafferty ahead of Karel Abraham and Valentino Rossi battling for 6th, 7th and 8th positions in this Grand Prix. Here is the order then for the record on lap 6 with 26 to go. Bradl, Marquez, Pedrosa 1, 2, 3 from Petrucci, Oyama, Lafferty. Abraham is 7th from Rossi. Iannone 9th from Di Meglio. Aleix Spago is in 11th position. Then it's Lorenzo, Edwards, Dovizioso and Crutchlow are 14th and 15th. Bradley Smith has rejoined the race in 23rd. Nicky Hayden, surprisingly, not making the best of the conditions at the moment, but is suffering with a wrist injury, don't forget, but he's down there in 22nd place. Interestingly as well, Nick, the last 2 or 3 laps now, Pedrosa has been consistently quicker than Marc Marquez, and here they are battling for 2nd place.
Pedrosa closes up on Marc Marquez at turn 12. We now switch the camera to Marquez. Here comes Pedrosa. Nicely placed for turn 13, but you've got to be careful in these conditions. This is where the track probably it was at its wettest, just a little bit further back at turn 12. Up through the start-finish area, Dylan.
No, probably very clever from Dani Pedrosa to use Marquez as a reference, because he can see exactly what's happening with Marquez with his bike and the conditions, and if he can just hang in there until it's fully dry, I think that's the cleverest thing to do.
Valentino Rossi, Karel Abraham being overtaken by Jorge Lorenzo. Rossi running in 6th place. Lorenzo now up into 7th. It's going to take a couple more laps to really sort all this out, but it's being sorted out pretty quick as we ride with Marquez. That's Pedrosa behind him, and they're closing all the time on Stefan Bradl, who took the gamble, but perhaps leading the way, and he had absolutely nobody to follow as an example. Meant that he couldn't run the pace he wanted to at the front on the slick tyres.
It's going to be one long 6-wheeled bike in the moment. Those 2 Repsol bikes again catching Bradl. Another half a second has gone in the first half of this lap. There is the difference. Look at the difference there, gapping him to as they get down. Well, it's reverse gap, isn't it? They're catching him as they drop down the hill from turn 11. So Bradl leads for Marquez and Pedrosa. Pedrosa, when will he spring the move on Marquez? Will they pass Bradl first, or is he going to try and attack Bradl first? We'll have to just wait and see. Look how much slower it is here.
It's incredible difference in pace. I think Stefan Bradl has been really unsettled by the conditions. And Marquez is going to get through at turn 13. It's left Pedrosa. No. Pedrosa wanted to come through, and there's no way through there. And really, that's not the fault of Stefan Bradl. He's not a back marker. And now Pedrosa will try and fight his way through. And probably for Bradl, that's maybe even a little bit of a relief because he's got somebody to follow now to test out the conditions for him.
This is the battle going on then for 5th place. Hiroshi Ayama loses a spot. Valentino Rossi gains 1 position. Lorenzo just behind them. Incidentally, great stuff from Lorenzo at the start of the race because as we spotted at the time, as Pedrosa now closes right up on the back of Stefan Bellini's going through. Bradl drops then from 1st to 2nd, from 2nd to 3rd on this lap. The question is now, as Marquez puts the hammer down, can Pedrosa keep in touch with his teammates?
Just lost a bit of it, didn't he? Not meant to get past Bradl at the same time. That's why he was so desperate to get through at turn 13. Now Marquez is where he likes to be, out at the front. There is Bradl. Brave move by the German, but having to run in those conditions by himself made it difficult. The track is drying out. We have a familiar figure at the front. Will the rain return? But Marc Marquez leads the way here in Germany.
As I was saying then about Lorenzo, very quick thinking, cut across the curb, didn't even get the right word there, between the pit lane exit and the racetrack itself, and sensibly then allowed Dani Pedrosa back through and yielded that position at the start of the race to avoid any such penalty. Lorenzo is now running in 6th place. Look at this though, Petrucci's on the wets, Rossi's on the slicks, and that's why that Ioda bike is so close to the back of the factory Yamaha as they round the left-hander at 12. This is 13 and back over the start-finish straight to start lap 8 of 30 here, 23 to go. Lorenzo now, there is the factory Yamaha grunt for you straight through on the run down to turn 1.
Yeah, I think it just shows that the track probably still a little bit damp going into 12 and coming out of 12, and that's why Petrucci was able to go with Rossi. He's not able to go there now. Valentino Rossi running in 4th place. What's the gap between him and Stefan Bradl? Well, it's a fair gap, but Bradl has been unsettled running at the front. Very easy for us to say it was a brave decision, but he had to take all the might of the weather and the track himself, didn't he? And obviously he wasn't quite sure. And he wasn't quite sure when he had that big moment at turn 11.
And the likes of Petrucci started on the grid on wets, just praying for the rain to fall again because they would really be in the box seat if it did. Having said that though, those at the front are now pulling much further away now. It's a 6/10 of a second gap then between the two Repsol Hondas. Just dropped to half a second in this middle sector of the lap, sector 2 of 3. Pedrosa still 2nd, Bradley's 3rd, Rossi 4th from Jorge Lorenzo, Iannone Petrucci, Hiroshi Ayama, Aleix Espargaro, and Crutchlow is in 10th place. I have to say though, all credit to everybody, they're all still running in the Grand Prix.
Yeah, what an amazing start. 3/4 of the field starting from pit lane because they went out on their final sighting laps and decided we could risk the slick tyres, so they had to change bikes and go out on them. That's what they did. Marquez leads the way. Dani Pedrosa looks very strong in 2nd place, I've got to say. He has got a great record here, as we keep saying. He has won here 4 times previously in MotoGP. There is Rossi coming under pressure from Jorge Lorenzo. This is the battle for 4th and 5th place. They're closing all the time on Stefan Bradl. We ride with Rossi. That is Lorenzo behind him. Rossi's got a great record here. Lorenzo has never won here in any class of Grand Prix racing.
Marquez was told the gap on the pit board to Pedrosa was 6/10 of a second, but by the time they crossed the line, it was only 3/10 of a second. Dani Pedrosa right behind his teammate now at the front of the field. Remember, Pedrosa's won 3 of the last 4 Grand Prix here, won 3 times then, 2010, 11 and 12, before breaking the collarbone in a turn 1 crash last year. And don't forget, it was Pedrosa on provisional pole here yesterday until he crashed again down at that first corner, and a few spots of rain there on the camera lens around the left-hander.
Oh. Keep your fingers crossed. Andrea Iannone having a good ride now, up into 6th place. He's got the 2 Yamahas in his sights. I don't think he's probably going to catch them if they flick it down towards the waterfall, down the right-hander. We ride with Valentino Rossi, that's Jorge Lorenzo behind him, and they're closing up on Stefan Bradl all the time. Here comes Lorenzo on the brakes. Brave move by Jorge Lorenzo. The track's still a bit damp there, and Jorge Lorenzo now moves up into 4th place.
Extremely brave move, wasn't it? Bearing in mind the conditions there at the Saxon curve. Committed stuff though from the 2-time world champion. Marc is over the line, fastest lap of the race. He has extended the lead up to only though 3.5 seconds. Now Lorenzo sets the fastest lap of the race despite pulling that move on Valentino Rossi. 1:23.6. Well, it was only fractions quicker than Marquez, but it was the fastest of the race so far.
How are we looking weather-wise, Dylan?
We're okay. We're okay. These spits of rain. It's the very occasional, but you know, it's sort of kind of like flicking a water bottle. It's really nothing. No, it's really nothing. We can be positive at least for now.
Well, we got our fingers crossed up here because I think this is going to be one hell of a battle. Lorenzo wants to get past Bradl as quick as he can. Wants to bring Rossi with him. Pedrosa is really putting some pressure on Marquez. We ride with Bradl. It's, I'm afraid, almost inevitable that Lorenzo is going to go past. We now switch to Lorenzo. Bradl fighting to stay on the podium, but here comes Jorge Lorenzo, and Lorenzo is riding like the old Jorge Lorenzo this weekend. Goes past at a very difficult and brave overtaking place at turn 8 as they race up the hill.
Fantastic onboard shots there. Looking back there now from the Honda of Bradl. Lorenzo's gone. This is Rossi. This is the battle then for 4th position. Down the waterfall, down the dip to turn 12. Will Rossi dive for the inside? We know the track is damp here on the inside of the Saxon curve. It's not quite far enough alongside as Lorenzo was on Rossi last time round, and Bradl therefore holds that 4th position for now.
Well, I expect Bradl's gaining more and more in confidence because he's got other people testing out the conditions, and the conditions obviously are getting better. We ride with Stefan Bradl. Valentino Rossi desperate to get by. Just got to say the sort of move that Jorge Lorenzo is in, and you can see that the gap has already appeared. Lorenzo into turn 1. Here goes Rossi into turn 1. 20 laps to go. Valentino Rossi now moves up into 4th place and relegates Stefan Bradl back to 5th. And Andrea Iannone all the time closing up on Bradl also.
Despite those few very, very light spots of rain in the air, the track conditions are the best they have been now for the whole race, because most of the riders that time round posting their personal best lap times, including Pedrosa and Lorenzo 2nd and 3rd, but the fastest lap overall in the race, as you can see there, Marc is it's a 1:22.872 now, and the lead is up to just under 0.6 of a second. There it was between Marquez and Dani Pedrosa. Every single situation you throw at this man, he's only 21 years old, and he's just outsmarting them every single time so far, but this race is not over yet. Still 19.5 laps to go here.
He's definitely got the hammer down now. He definitely feels that the track conditions are at their best, but obviously they are. This is where it was a bit damp. It doesn't seem a lot of dampness now, does it, at turn 12? Let's just have a look when they come out of turn 12. The battle behind. Poor old Stefan Bradl made a brave move, but he's being picked off one by one. Andrea Iannone now through on the German, and Iannone up into a 5th place, pushing Stefan Bradl back to 6th.
It was one of the best moves we've seen in many, many years, wasn't it? Bradl starting there on the slick tyres. What a strange start to the race it was, with only a handful of bikes on the starting grid, and Bradl with hardly anybody behind him, and all the rest. Look on the right-hand side in the pits. Look at all those bikes lined up, just in case we are presented with another changeable situation with the weather. Here's Crutchlow battling Hiroshi Ayama. This is the battle for 9th position. Tickety is ahead of customer Honda under braking for turn 1. Right behind them is Scott Redding, and this is the honours for the customer Honda fight. Oyama leads the way in that battle, but Redding looking very, very feisty indeed now.
Oyama, former winner here in the 250cc class. Lacia Spago, he took full advantage of the conditions in the Assen. I don't think it's quite worked in his favour this time round. He's coming under pressure from Andrea Dovizioso. This is the battle for 7th place.
The fastest lap for Marquez, and the lead is 0.62 seconds over Marquez, but a mistake. Pedrosa will be all over the back of him. Look, it's decreased slightly, top left of the screen, to just under 0.6 now then, halfway around the lap. They're into the slowest part of the track at the moment. Mode 1 then. Mode 1 goes out on the pit board for Dani Pedrosa.
Some sort of setting, isn't it? Is it absolutely crucial, I'd say, Dylan, when you
look,
couple of laps?
I clearly don't know Honda settings,
no,
but what's clear is that they would have gone out on a slightly reduced power one when you've got these slippery conditions. So you could argue that now they're able to increase the power a little bit more, because they don't have to worry quite so much about the tyres spinning up.
He's up for this, Dani Pedrosa. You just get that feeling. So's Jorge Lorenzo, but the gap may be too big between him and the 2 factory Honda riders at the front.
Well, it is at the moment, but Pedrosa's just set the fastest lap of the race after Marquez did, and then Lorenzo did. So Lorenzo quickest of the top through that time round from Pedrosa, from the race leader Marc Marquez. 0.7 of a second between the 2 Hondas at the front, a further 5.2 seconds back to Jorge Lorenzo, and then another 2.5 back to Rossi in 4th place. Replay, this is Marquez around the left-hander. So he's on a slick right now, started the race on a slick, but only after a pit lane start. Most of the riders were on wet. They all came into the pit lane at the end of the warm-up lap in one of the most dramatic and unusual starts we've ever seen. They all came flying out of the pit lane and then had to fight their way back up through the order.
It's just like queuing up at the traffic lights to come out, weren't they? Look, the track, the racing line is dry, but you can still see down at turn 12. It's still a little bit, if you got off the racing line, it's still a little bit damp. Marquez under pressure. You know what Marquez does when he's under pressure? He opens that throttle even more, doesn't he?
Keep a close eye on the lap times. Marquez, fastest lap of the race. Pedrosa, his personal best lap of the race, but not as quick as Marquez. We're waiting for Lorenzo to come over the line, which he's doing right now. That time then, Marquez was the quickest of the three and the best lap of the race so far. But personal bests coming in left, right and centre as they all cross the line. Rossi, Iannone, Bradl, and later Spago all quicker right now than they have been at any other point in the race. That customer Honda battle's going on. Redding is having a go at Oyama down the inside for 10th place as they attack turn 1. Redding is through.
Bradl coming under pressure this time from Alicia Spago and Andrea Dovizioso after that brave move. There is a Cal Crutchlow. He'd be really pleased to get a good race under his belt, Cal Crutchlow, going into the summer break. Remember, he finished second here last year on the Yamaha. Now, of course, having a really tough time with Ducati. I feel sorry for Stefan Bradl.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, there was a brave move, and I thought it was a master move, but actually, because he had to really decide what was what all on his own.
Well, yeah, I think it dented his confidence. I think it dented his confidence.
Yeah, and it was a big slide, wasn't it? A big moment at turn 11, and I think he felt, well, I haven't got anybody around. You were so right when you said about Dani Pedrosa, Dylan, following a Marquez, and he had somebody, to test the conditions out for him.
This is Alicia Spago now up the inside of Bradl, so he's lost another one. Bradl drops down to 7th position at the Saxon curve. Alicia Spago up then into that 6th place. Fastest lap of the race now for Dani Pedrosa. They just continue to exchange those fastest laps. It's still a 6/10 of a second gap between the Hondas at the front.
One theory could also be that they set Stefan's bike up, because that was obviously his bike that was set up for the wet. They changed tyres on that and would have changed the settings, but So they would have stiffened up the suspension, but they might not have been able to get it to the kind of setting that you'd really need for the dry. So they set that bike up arguably for just slightly damp conditions, whereas all the other guys that came in went from their fully wet bike to their fully dry bike, to the bike that they've been riding in the dry sessions, where Stefan Bradl's bike was a wet bike converted on the grid.
Yeah, he's going to be picked off. We ride with Stefan Bradl. That's number 35, Cal Crutchlow, right behind him. Bradl currently down in 8th place. Crutchlow is 9th, but I think those positions are going to reverse very soon indeed.
Yes,
And then you just got a glimpse there of Scott Redding, who's having a really good ride on that Grassini Open Class Honda.
Dovizioso already through on Bradl on this lap now, as you say. Crutchlow bearing down on us. We're at the left-handers up the top of the hill. Well, this is a matter of when rather than if, and the answer was almost right then at the Waterfall corner. Crutchlow thinking about it, but thinking better of it. Up to the Saxon curve is inevitable. Crutchlow's through up into 8th position. Bradl down to 9th. Pedrosa's combing in on Marquez. Another fastest lap of the race. He's inside now, half a second of Marquez. Pedrosa is absolutely flying. Having said that, the Marquez pace is still great as well. It was still Marquez's best lap of the race so far, but it's just fractions every time.
This is as good as we've seen Dani Pedrosa this season. He rode very well in Barcelona, didn't he, where he pushed very hard against Marquez together with Valentino Rossi. But he does like the Sachsenring, and he is not letting him get away at the front. And it's a 10th here and a 10th there. But when it got to 6th, 10th, I thought it's going to be a second soon. And I always have that feeling, once it gets to a second, it's over. But this isn't. And again, Dani Pedrosa climbs up and closes up on Marc. He's just signed a new 2-year contract with Honda, Dani Pedrosa. So he'll be Marc Marquez's teammate for the next 2 years. Good mates at the moment. Let's see what happens in the next 14 and a half laps.
Yeah, Valentino Rossi's re-signed as well, don't forget, with Yamaha for the next 2 years. We're all waiting to see what Jorge Lorenzo does. Summer break coming up now, though. The next MotoGP action in 1 month's time at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That'll be round 10 of 18. We will therefore then be at the halfway point of this World Championship after this very Grand Prix. We are now at half race distance at the Sachsenring.
Yeah, they're telling me it's half a second. That's about right, isn't it? It's 4/10, but you can probably hear him behind him. Will we arrive in Indianapolis with Marquez having won all the races in the first half of the season, or can Dani Pedrosa dent the record? This is going to be a very exciting final 13 and a half laps, and it does appear that the weather is cleared up and the track is dry. There's a horrible black cloud that caused all the problems, and there's even a little bit of, not sunshine, but it's a lot brighter out there now, isn't it?
Well, this modern-day Sachsenring has been used in the World Championship since 1998. Dani Pedrosa's won more races on it across the 3 classes than anybody else. 6 times a winner here. Now look at this back at the start of the race. 15 laps ago. They all lined up almost at the end of the pit lane. Some of them had been on wets on the warm-up lap, decided to switch to slicks. On the grid here, of those bikes, Bradl, Oyama and Abraham were all on slicks already, so they race off down to turn 1, and here comes, as I say, the cavalry charge into that first corner. Watch Jorge Lorenzo, number 99 on the Yamaha. He's going to dive across the curb on the inside. He knows the error of his ways there. Hand up, allows Pedrosa back in front of him. Very, very sensible stuff indeed. In fact, in the process, lost another one to Bradley Smith around the outside. Look, so Bradl away on the left.
Look at that. Look at pit lane. It's extraordinary.
I can't imagine we will ever see that again.
The gate. There we go.
Go.
3 hot dogs at the end. Open the throttle. Off you go. And
look
at
at
that.
that.
Everybody got a mean.
Whoa. Alicia Spago and Rossi getting too close for comfort. Poor getaway for Dovizioso, wasn't it? We're on board with Pedrosa. Lorenzo's going to cut through here on the right-hand side. You just saw the front wheel there of Jorge Lorenzo, and we're allowed back through. Rossi on our right. Wow. Marc has got away first then from Alicia Spago, Rossi and Pedrosa at that point. Back live then, 13 to go. The gap out the front is 4.5 tenths of a second.
Guys, I was just chatting with Christophe Bourguignon, Stefan Bradl's crew chief. They look very upset. They say it was our mistake. We didn't get to change everything we wanted to on the grid, so they know that they haven't given Stefan the best bike for the dry. So it's Stefan who's essentially struggling a bit with his machinery right now. We can see him being out-braked. So, you know, the bike's clearly not stiff enough under braking. They didn't want to specify what it was, but you've got to feel a bit sorry for the team and for Stefan Bradl that risk didn't pay off in this case.
Scott Redding has now gone past Stefan Bradl, and Scott Redding is up into 9th place. It's a tremendous performance by the Moto2 Championship winner up last year, but I think all eyes now will focus on this battle at the front. What can Dani Pedrosa do? He's certainly chasing very hard indeed. What will the gap be with 12 laps to go?
Classic stuff, just under half a second between them. Watch the gap then, top left of the screen. Fastest up of the race for Marquez this time round, and it increases to 6 tenths of a second. Back down to turn 1 where Pedrosa crashed here at the end of qualifying on Saturday.
It's a difficult one to call. They're swapping fastest laps throughout the race. It's a classic battle between the 2 factory Hondas. Pedrosa just not quite close enough just yet, but the gap remaining around half a second all the time. The track is nice and dry now. And Marquez, well, can he make it 9 in a row? Can he make it 5 successive wins at the Sachsenring? And there you go. Pedrosa just a little bit fastest through those first 2 sectors, but then the new gap goes up once again. It's a difficult one to call, isn't it?
That's Michael Laverty out of the race. They all survived the first 18 laps then in very, very difficult conditions. What a shame. Michael Laverty was running up there earlier on. Started on the grid, of course. No, he didn't. He started in the pit lane. Apologies there, but was running in 16th position. So many 16th positions for him already this year. But Laverty on the PBM bike out of the German Grand Prix. So very unfortunate stuff for him. His teammate still in the race though. Brock Parks is running 19th after scoring at Assen a couple of weeks ago.
Sun is out. Is it shining on Marc Marquez? Dani Pedrosa knows they're going to have a better chance than perhaps beat him, but it's just increased it by 1/10 of a second. We ride with Jorge Lorenzo. Who knows if it had been a straight race where Jorge Lorenzo would have been, because he's riding very well indeed. It should be a podium finish. He's fought off the challenge of Valentino Rossi. Andrea Iannone has crossed the line in 6th place. Andrea Dovizioso 7th. 8th is Cal Crutchlow. 9th Scott Redding. 10th place Paula Spago, then Alvaro Bautista, Bradl dropping down, Rossi Oyama also dropping down, Carol Abram, Danilo Petrucci, Nicky Hayden running in 16th place.
Yeah, sorry Nick, I apologise. Laverty did start the race on the grid, but he actually started the warm-up lap from the pit lane. So he started the warm-up lap in the pits, then went round and formed up 18th place on the grid. So Laverty the first retirement in this 23 rider field. Bradley Smith still circulating at the back of the field, 2.2 seconds behind Demeglio in what will be the battle for 21st place after suffering a crash earlier in the race. It was his 5th crash of the weekend. We're with Marquez then. He's leading Pedrosa by almost 7/10 of a second now. So Pedrosa needs to respond, doesn't he?
Just increasing it a little bit by a little bit, doesn't he? So this is, again, a very important part of the race. The track looks in good nick now as he comes up into turn 13. There will be 10 laps ago when he crosses the line. It'll be interesting to see what the gap is. We ride with Marc Marquez. Pedrosa crosses the line. It's over a second.
Wow.
Has the resistance been broken? Is Marquez now going to clear off and win that 9th successive Grand Prix?
Well, it certainly could be the case. 10 laps to go then of this anti-clockwise 3.6 kilometre circuit. Another fastest lap of the race, as you say, and almost into the 21s then now for Marquez. It is 1.036 seconds gap. And then back to Lorenzo in third, 7.6 seconds. Lorenzo on then for a third podium finish of the season at the moment after Argentina. And obviously Mugello, where he pushed Marquez so hard that day. And look at this.
Yeah, these two had some fun and games last year, didn't they? Fighting for the Moto2 World Championship. Scott Redding finished second in that one, but he's leading the way from Paula Spago at the moment. This is a battle for 9th place. Paula Spago on that Yamaha, closing up on the open class Honda of Scott Redding. But brings back memories of last year, doesn't it? When Paula Spago pipped Scott Redding to that Moto2 World Championship title.
This is at the top of the hill, plunging back down the other side of the valley now. 9th for Redding, 10th for Paula Spago. Look at the difference in lap times last time around, 1.1 seconds. So obviously, once again, this is a matter of when rather than if. Let's be patient though, Paul. Finished on the podium here last year in the Moto2 race. Got to be careful though, passing Redding. Great battle though going on for 9th place, and superb stuff for Redding to be leading the way of the customer Honda riders. Another fastest lap back at the front for Marquez, and the lead is up to 1.5 seconds. Paula Spago does dispatch of Redding then coming into turn 12.
Yeah, of course he's on the satellite Yamaha machine, whereas it is the customer open class Honda of Scott Redding. That is the gap. I'm not going to say it's all over bar the shouting, so that's not fair on Marc Marquez, but he's well on course for doing it again, isn't he? Again, everything that was thrown at him, the conditions, having to start from pit lane, he's handling it far, far more than majority of 21-year-olds could.
Just 9 laps to go. Alvaro Bautista, what's he done this afternoon then? Well, he qualified 10th fastest, did start from the pit lane, as did a handful of riders, as we know. Running around at the moment in 11th
Tell you what,
place.
he'll want to try and get past his teammate Scott
Yeah.
Redding, won't
Oh,
he?
yeah,
Because
for sure.
the open class Honda beating the satellite Honda, that will not, and contracts coming up, and Alvaro Bautista, you know, not having, well, waiting to see where his future lies. Karel Abraham started on slicks and he's running in 13th place.
So back with Marquez, 8 laps to go then in the German Grand Prix. Watch the lap times very carefully as we are. It's up to 1.8 seconds now, 1.8 then between these two Honda riders. Here's where Pedrosa crashed from the lead in 2008, where he crashed in practice and broke the collarbone last year, and in qualifying yesterday. Makes it sound like it's not a great circuit for him, but so many wins here, 6 over the years, and more information then for Dani Pedrosa, courtesy of that pit board.
Yeah, he's got to hurry it up. He's going to finish second. It'll be a great ride by Dani Pedrosa, but it's going to be Marquez now en route. 8 laps to go. Lorenzo third, Rossi 4, Iannone, Lacia Spago, Dovizioso, Crutchlow, Paula Spago, Redding Bautista, Rossi Oyama, Karel Abraham, Stefan Bradl. We've heard that the team couldn't get the bike set up properly when he decided to go on slicks. Danilo Petrucci picked up a single point in Assen at the moment, running with a super point. It's a lonely old ride for Jorge Lorenzo, but he is chasing just his 3rd podium finish of the season. Jarvis, the boss, the man in charge of Yamaha Racing, looks on, and they no doubt will be having some discussions with representatives of Jorge Lorenzo during the summer break about a new contract.
Here he is then up at the 12th corner of the circuit, the penultimate corner on the track, and this is where we saw riders having to slow down quite dramatically, didn't we, earlier in the race, because that's where the rain was coming in from earlier. Obviously then the wettest corner of the morning, they're all out there on slicks. Look though in the meantime at these two Ducatis, Cal Crutchlow, this will be encouraging. He's right up behind his teammate now, Andrea Dovizioso. This is the battle going on for 7th and 8th places.
Oh, this is a big race for Cal Crutchlow. He wants to go back to the Isle of Man or wherever he's going for his holidays. If he can beat his teammate after a wretched start to his Ducati career, that would be an enormous boost for him. Paula Spago not that far behind them also, was replacing Cal Crutchlow in that Tech 3 Yamaha team. This is the old Ducati battle. Teammates, that's the worst person that can beat you. This will be a fierce old battle.
Yes, memories of Indianapolis last year when Hayden and Dovizioso went bouncing over those curbs while they were battling at the end of the race. Just been doing some jotting up, by the way, Nick. 23 riders in this field, 14 of them it was that started this race from the pit lane.
Here is the different positions of Dani Pedrosa and Marc Marquez. They're at turn 12, they're coming up towards turn 13. We're running with Marquez, looking at the GPS on the right hand side there. Up he climbs through turn 13, there'll be 6 laps to go for Marquez. Can anybody stop this young man? There certainly doesn't appear they can, as we go to Indianapolis in 4 weeks' time. Dani Pedrosa in second place, giving it a really good shot. Not an easy race for anybody having to start from pit lane and the track drying out. But when it came to the crunch, Marquez on top once again.
Yes, and this time the pit board quite clearly meaning the best in Spanish.
I think he was saying you were better than Marc, because Marc was a 22.4, Dani was a 22.2. I asked what the TT num was, and I sort of got told to go away.
Mind your own business. Yeah. Look at Cal Crutchlow. This is determination from Crutchlow. He's back. Overtakes his teammate Andrea Dovizioso as they plunge down the waterfall from turn 11, and Crutchlow now up into 7th place.
May well be the case, though, as Dylan says with the lap times. Once again, that time round as well, because obviously that would have been prepared based on the laps the previous time. And as Dylan says, Marquez was a little bit slower than Dani Pedrosa that time round. We're on board then with Andrea Dovizioso, the two Ducati twins right together here. Crutchlow now in front of Andrea Dovizioso. Well, this is sweet, isn't it, to say the least?
They're having to pile on the pressure because Paula Spago is closing up on them all the time. Crutchlow wants to beat Andrea Dovizioso, who wants to beat Paula Spago, who took his place in the Yamaha team. And Crutchlow moved, didn't pinch his place. We ride with Andrea Dovizioso.
And let's just confirm as well, Crutchlow is yet to finish in front of Dovizioso as teammates at Ducati. Obviously, they were teammates as well a couple of years ago at Tech 3 Yamaha. Don't forget, there is a Tech 3 Yamaha of Paula Spago right behind both of them.
Third gear for turn 12. They keep it in third, then down into seconds. They come up through 13. Difficult left-hander. And then onto this 700-metre long start and finish straight. Paula Spago is right behind them. Paula Spago may even try and pick one or two of them off as they come into turn 1. Paula Spago is not known for his patience, is he? But even though Paula Spago couldn't wait there. The gap at the front is closing a little bit, but that well could be Marc Marquez just easing the throttle a bit. We hope that Dani Pedrosa is going to have one more big go. We're going to find out in the next couple of laps.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right. Marquez is controlling the pace. Having said that, Pedrosa is pushing very hard. Now puts in his best lap of the race so far. It's a 1.4 second gap. In the background, I saw the two Grassini bikes have swapped position. Bautista then is in front of Scott Redding and up into 10th place. We're back on board then, this time with Paula Spago down in 9th position. Dovizioso directly in front of us, and then Cal Crutchlow. I wouldn't be surprised if Paula Spago is 7th in the next few minutes.
They're not going to make it easy for him, are the two Ducatis? Up the top of the hill through 9 and 10, then flick it down through 11. That is the gap at the front.
1.2 seconds now. Oh, and he's run wide. Pedrosa runs very wide indeed. Meantime, Paula Spago is ahead of the Ducatis, past Andrea Dovizioso, up into 8th position in this Grand Prix to split those two Ducatis. But look what's happened at the front. It's up to 1.4 seconds now. A huge error for Pedrosa at turn 1.
What a shame. He was closing up on Marc Marquez. We ride with Andrea Dovizioso. Paula Spago has got past it. Dovizioso thinks about coming back. Paula Spago puts that right leg out, as does Cal Crutchlow. Cal Crutchlow, not an easy man to overtake. We run with Dovizioso behind the Yamaha and the Ducati. You saw the two Grassini bikes behind them, with Bautista leading the way from Scott Redding down at the Omega curve. This is the gap. 1.3. It's just closing a little bit, but is Marquez controlling it at the front, or is Pedrosa really putting the pressure on from behind? We're going to find out, because there'll only be 3 laps to go. They're down at turn 12.
Add all that up, he's taken about 7/10 of a second out of him over the last 3 laps, but that would increase slightly as we know this lap, because Pedrosa ran wide at turn 1. Marquez, by the way, did you see him at the top of the hill around 9 and 10? He was absolutely on the ragged edge, right up to the edge of the track there. And now 3 laps to go. Watch the gap, top left of the screen. 1.5 seconds, so 3 laps to go. So my basic mental arithmetic tells me he needs half a second over the next 3 laps, and that's just to catch him. Then he's going to try and pass him. It's a bridge too far, isn't it? Unless Marquez perhaps makes a rare error.
Well, yeah, keep the pressure on, and he probably doesn't know. Well, Bulba tell him where he is. We ride with Jorge Lorenzo. It's been a lonely old ride into third place. It's good to see him back on the podium. Only his third podium finish. And Paula Spago has now got past Cal Crutchlow. And Paula Spago is now in 7th place. Crutchlow 8th and Dovizioso 9th.
Yes, further down the points then, those two riders who joined Stefan Bradlin starting the race on slick tyres but on the grid, having changed on the grid as opposed to at the end of the warm-up lap by diving into the pit lane. Well, they are Hiroshi Ayama and Karel Abraham. Quickly though, this is a replay of Paula Spago, very committed stuff indeed. Up the inside of the Saxon curve at turn 12, past Crutchlow. We are on board with Dovizioso watching the move. Bird's eye view then, battle raging there for 7th and 8th places. 7th for Paula Spago. 8th for Cal Crutchlow. Dovizioso still 9th at the moment, and those Ducatis will continue to battle, you would imagine, over the closing stages. I was just about to mention Hiroshi Ayama and Abraham. Where are they in the race? Well, they're actually running together. 12th for Ayama, 13th for Abraham.
Not long to go now before yet another record will be beaten here by number 93, Marquez. Crosses the line. 2 laps to go, 1.6 seconds, so he's pulled out a 10th of a second. Pedrosa, brave attempt, mistake at turn 1 a couple of laps ago, but he was pushing very, very hard indeed. He was pushing hard for the right reasons. He was trying to close up on Marquez. Marquez en route now. 9 successive Grand Prix victories, a full house as he defends that world title. Let's have a look at Dani Pedrosa in this replay.
Just tip it left, watch the tip of the boot just about touching the tarmac there. This is the Saxon curve of turn 12. We've seen plenty of excitement there over the first 28 laps of this race, haven't we? Only the 2 to go now then, so only another 4.4 miles to go in this German Grand Prix. A massive slide for Marc is absolutely spectacular. He's pulling away again. It was 1.6 seconds at the start of this lap. The only way he's going to be beaten now is if he makes some sort of error or a technical problem kicks in, both of which would be extremely rare.
Dani plunges towards turn 12. This is Paula Spargaro. Andrea Dovizioso getting up the inside of Cal Crutchlow and making it stick at turn 1. And all the time, it's Alvaro Bautista closing up on the 2 Ducatis.
So up into 8th place, and there is Juliet. Just the 1 more lap to go then for Marc. Final lap of the German Grand Prix, 3.6 kilometres in front of him. It's the 700-metre start-finish straight. Navigates his way down to turn 1, and then this fiddly section in the first sector, including the exit of turn 2, where he unintentionally flicked up from 2nd to 3rd gear in first free practice and crashed spectacularly, actually, did Marquez on Friday morning here. Rossi running 4, so it's going to be, by the looks of things, factory Hondas 1 and 2, factory Yamahas 3 and 4, and hats off to Andrea Iannone, the Pramac rider. The satellite Ducati is inside the top 5.
Just over half a lap to go for Marc Marquez. Plunges down the hill, turn 7, runs along the bottom of the valley here at the Sachsenring, then starts the climb back up. Dani Pedrosa in 2nd place, just closing a little bit now. Marquez knows this could be 9 in a row at the top of the hill. The 2 very fast left-handers, 9 and 10, and then flick it right down the waterfall. 6th gear, down through the gearbox for 3rd. 2 bends to go.
Yes, across the 3 classes of the World Championship, this would be 5 from 5, all from pole here at the Sachsenring. A 15th MotoGP class win and the 41st of his career. 1 more corner to go.
Marc Marquez rewrites the history books. 9 in a row, 5 in succession at the Sachsenring. He wins the German Grand Prix. Dani Pedrosa in 2nd place. Jorge Lorenzo, 1 bend to go for the double MotoGP World Champion. And another podium finish here for him in Germany. It's his 3rd podium finish of the season.
And it's a glorious 1-2 then for Repsol. Honda Lorenzo completes the podium. Rossi makes it a 3-4 then for the factory Yamaha team. Iannone will be 5th, and here we go again then with the dramatic Marc Marquez celebrations. Watch for this man, 6th, another really solid result then for Aleix Espargaro. But I tell you what, they're still racing further back. There's a great battle going on for 12th and 13th between Hiroshi Ayama and Karel Abraham. Scott running over the line for 11th. He is the leading customer Honda rider. What a great way to head into the summer break. And what's this now with Marc Marquez? Oh, is that a one of those smoke thing? Yeah, it is. It's a firework he set off. Obviously, he wasn't riding with that in his pocket, by the way.
No, I think that was probably produced for him. Yeah, firing up a few rockets. Again, difficult things thrown at him. You know, having to start from pit lane was not easy for anybody. The difficult conditions. He's taking it all in his stride. We are watching a truly extraordinary Grand Prix motorcycle racer in action. Remember, these days, you're not going to see anybody a lot better than this. We've seen the great riders, but he's right up there with them already. 9 successive wins, 5 consecutive wins at the Sachsenring. Boy, will he enjoy his summer break. I think they got a test at Brno in the Czech Republic, and then he's going to disappear to the beach. Does he deserve it? Well done, Dani Pedrosa. Terrific effort by him to catch his teammate, but second place, and that gives him a clear second place now in the World Championship.
And just those Repsol Honda bikes heading then to Brno for a private test. I know they don't really have pockets in the race suits, by the way. So, Repsol Honda 1-2. Lorenzo on the podium for the 3rd time this year after Argentina and also Mugello when he fought Marquez so hard that day. And finally then, after a really difficult first half of the year, at least Lorenzo can head into the summer break knowing he's finished on the podium in Germany.
This was always going to be a difficult result because of what happened with the weather, wasn't it? And them all having to start in pit lane. It was a bit of a lottery. So I think you just got to say, yeah, the podium is not the worst place to be. But as I say, you can throw all the opposition at him. You can throw the weather at him. You can throw difficult circumstances when you have to start from pit lane. It just doesn't matter. He just keeps on winning Grand Prix.
Well, he's won 9 then now at the start of the season, 7 of them from pole position, including this one. Most races won ever at the start of a single season in the Premier class. That's 10. Giacomo Agostini did that in 1970. Marquez could equal that then at Indianapolis, and if he does that, he could go on at Brno to become the first rider ever to win the opening 11 races of a Premier class campaign. We will find out then, starting with Indianapolis in 1 month's time.
Coming into good form, Dani Pedrosa. Clear second in the World Championship now, ahead of Valentino Rossi. Here is Rossi. The weather's played a big part in his last 2 races, hasn't it, for Valentino Rossi? He's had all those podium finishes, but now it's he had probably the wrong tyre choice in Assen here. It was never going to be easy having to start from pit lane. Well done, Jorge Lorenzo. As I think it was last year, we're going to see a very strong Jorge Lorenzo in the second part of the season, and he may be the man that can push Marquez. Can he win all 18? Well, when we arrived in Qatar, when he arrived just recovering from that broken leg, could he win the first Grand Prix, we were asking? Well, he's won 8 more since then, and he is something very special indeed. He can't wait to get off the bike, look, and jump, sing, run into the crowd, do all the things he wants to do as a 21-year-old should do.
It's funny, isn't it? Only the second time in the first half of this season that we've seen these 3 sharing a podium. Argentina was the first of them. Here we go then.
It's Alex Marquez, his brother is there as well. His dad's probably in there somewhere. The day Honda decided to sign Marc Marquez to replace Casey Stoner. Oh, what a masterstroke. The youngest rider to win 9. Beats Mike Hayward, my ultimate favourite. So thank you, Marc. And that was back in 1964 when I was still at school supporting Mike Hayward, who came from my hometown of Oxford. I'll let you have it though, Marc. I think you deserve it.
I think you've got no choice, unfortunately.
Yeah. So 10 is the record. Giacomo Agostini, 1970.
Yeah, from the start of the season.
Well, Indianapolis, stand by. You've got to be there. You've got to watch Marquez in action, and he could again rewrite the history books. Very good ride indeed by Andrea Iannone. Almost unheralded, wasn't it? But a 5th place on that Pramac Ducati. And once again, the top Ducati. He's pushing hard for that factory ride. Of that, there is no doubt.
He is indeed. And let's see what might happen then. It's not often you get dramatic rider change stories breaking over the summer break, but it wouldn't be the first time if it did happen. Final results then to round 9 of 2014. The German Grand Prix. Marquez wins for the 9th time out of 9 races so far this year. Repsol Honda 1-2 in Germany. Lorenzo on the podium for the 3rd time in the first half of this season. So it's Yamaha's 3rd and 4th. Lorenzo ahead of Rossi Iannone. Great ride to 5th ahead of the 2 Spago brothers, Aleix and Paul Dovizioso. Thanks for all of the entertainment this afternoon. Alvaro Bautista actually managed to jump ahead of Cal Crutchlow and up into 9th place. And Scott Redding beating Hiroshi Ayama and Nicky Hayden to the leading customer Honda spots. Nicky Hayden, the fourth of those Honda bikes, then 14th place. Danilo Petrucci, once again, another points finish.
Yeah. Disaster for Bradley Smith, his 5th crash of the weekend. He did remount and eventually finishing in 19th place. So what do the crowd do now? Nearly 90,000 here. Do they go home or do they stay, have a party and watch the World Cup final on the big screens? Marc Marquez, I'm sure, will be watching the World Cup final, but probably not on the big screens. A 77-point lead now in the World Championship. Dani Pedrosa cements his 2nd place in the championship in front of Valentino Rossi. Well, we go into the summer break. I think we all need a break. But memories of those 9 Grand Prix wins of Marc Marquez are very special indeed. We are seeing something that perhaps has never been seen before. And when you talk about the likes of Giacomo Agostini, talk about Mike Hayward, you talk about Valentino Rossi, already at 21 years old, he's right up there with them, isn't he? It is an extraordinary performance, yet again, by the 21-year-old Spaniard.
There are the 3 of them, then 3 Spaniards on the podium in Germany.
I will never forget the sight of the start of the race. Stefan Bradl all on his own, and all the others, you know, many of the others. How many was it? Did you say 17, 18 of them starting from pit lane? 14
it was in the end from pit lane. A few of them had been in the pit lane at the end of the warm-up lap as well. That was the 14 of them. That is the race-winning overtake. Wow, look how close Pedrosa got to clipping the back of Bradl's bike. So what's first of all, Marc is through on the inside to take the lead, but watch the second 2 bikes. Bradl sits up. Now what's Pedrosa? Wow, did they actually just slightly touch there?
That could have been a big moment, you know, because he never got quite close enough after that, did he, Dani Pedrosa, to Marc Marquez, and he wanted to hang in there, and he wasn't able to do so, and it just gave Marquez that little bit of an advantage. Pedrosa was closing the gap at one time towards the end of the race, then made a mistake at turn 1. But that just opened the gap, and celebration time for Marc Marquez. Yeah, enjoy watching him. It's something very special indeed. What I like, as I keep saying, it's you can throw anything at him and he just handles it. He's had the crash Friday morning, horrible crash Friday morning. Looked a bit shaken, didn't he? Handles that, pole position, then the rain, having to start from pit lane, never easy. But he just takes it all in his stride.
Nice to see as well, isn't it? Pedrosa and Lorenzo on the podium here after what happened to them with collarbone breaking crashes last year. Here's the Open Riders classification then. It's not an official championship class, but it's just a good comparison of who's faring well, who's faring not quite so well. Perhaps Aleix Espargaro, 44 points ahead of Scott Redding, but as we know, he's in a bit of a different league, isn't he, this year? Redding, though, then, the leading customer Honda rider, and that's critical stuff as they look to develop that bike.
Well, the podium beckons for Marc Marquez. He deserves a summer break. So I think there is a private test for the Repsol Honda team in Brno before he can have that break. They lead the way in the team's championship by 135 points from Movistar Yamaha, then Ducati, Monster Yamaha Tech 3, Pramac, NGM Forward Racing, Go and Fun Honda Gresini, Drive M7 Aspar, and LCR Honda MotoGP. And poor old Stefan Bradl took the gamble with the slick tyres. The gamble was right with the tyres, but the team were not able to set the bike up right for that gamble. All the other riders that came in after that final sighting lap and went out on the other bike had the bike correctly set up for the dry conditions. Bradl didn't have time to do that as they took the gamble of starting with slicks. It looked like a very good gamble. It didn't turn out. Honda lead the way in the constructors.
Yeah, so it's a 71-point advantage. Now it was a 62-point advantage, so that's increased by another 9 as we head into round 10 at Indianapolis in 4 weeks' time. Who would have believed it, though? Who would have believed the whole situation here this afternoon? But with the lead Bradl had on the first lap, that he'd end up finishing 16th outside of the points and almost 54 seconds behind the winner.
Well, I'm sure the team, the LCR team, is saying, no, we did make a mistake. We should have done what the others did and come in and started from pit lane. But he had such a big advantage. But they couldn't do the work on the bike. They had to work on the single bike where the others had 2 bikes set up. Well, the bike they were out on with the wet weather tyres and the bike correctly set up with the slick tyres. and it paid off.
Guys, I'm just down here, Park Fermo, with Lynn Jarvis from Yamaha. Lynn, Jorge, obviously, towards the end, fantastic pace there. Do you think this is a much-needed boost for him after Assen?
Well, there's no doubt after Assen. I mean, Assen was a disaster, as he said. It was probably the worst race of his career in MotoGP. So to come back here straight away afterwards and be on the podium, also in mixed conditions with dry and wet, for sure it's a boost for him. Will he be really happy? I don't think we're too happy to be 9 seconds behind the Hondas today and again see another Honda 1-2. But, you know, as a part of the recovery process, as a good way to go into the summer break, and then hopefully we'll fight back in the second half.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much, Lynn.
Yeah, and probably a few discussions going on in that summer break between Lynn Jarvis and representatives, or perhaps Jorge Lorenzo himself, about a contract, because Valentino Rossi is signed for the next 2 years. Marquez has a new, not a new teammate, the same teammate for the next 2 years with Dani Pedrosa. And of course, he's already re-signed for Honda for 2 years. And if you're at Honda, you'd be mad if you didn't re-sign him as they did as quickly as you could. 1-2 for Honda, Yamaha in third place. But a scene we're probably going to see for many years to come. The majority of the field starting in a queue from pit lane. It was the way they all tried to push their way to the front, wasn't it? It was amazing.
Well, before the race began, you remember Dylan mentioned Valencia 2012, and we thought that was exciting.
And how many were in there?
Just four.
Four.
So add another 10 to that, and that's what you had here in Germany this afternoon. We'd never seen anything like that before, and it would be quite rare to see it again. You need a really special set of circumstances to occur for that to happen. That's what's so fantastic, though, isn't it, about motorcycle racing? You can never have one race exactly the same as another. Something different happens every single time, and it certainly did today.
So 9 out of 9 for Marc Marquez. He has totally dominated the defence of the world title he won as the youngest ever MotoGP world champion last year. They've all had a go. Jorge Lorenzo had a real big go at Mugello. I think Dani Pedrosa had a really big go in Barcelona. Valentino Rossi had a very big go in that opening round of the championship in Qatar. The weather played its part in Assen 15 days ago. It's played its part here once again. Doesn't matter. He still wins all the races.
And that is the definition of unbeatable, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It really is. So far this year, he has not been beaten. Okay, he has in qualifying, but certainly not across the Grand Prix distance.
Any times he's been beaten in qualifying when he crashed in Catalonia, and really the weather caught everybody out in that qualifying session, didn't it? In Assen, and let's be honest, he shattered the 6-year-old lap record set by Casey Stoner on the Ducati in qualifying yesterday.
It's a gentleman's set as well for Marquez, as it's known, a perfect score, you might say. He did set the fastest lap of this race as well, and actually that fastest lap for Marquez came on lap 21 of the 30-lap Grand Prix distance. That's not a major surprise, though, due to the amazing conditions we saw here this afternoon, and the track drying out and improving all the time across into the second half of the race. Final gap between the two winners was 1.4 seconds. Well, I should say the winner and the second place man, 1.4 seconds. 10.3 back to Lorenzo in third.
There we are. Well, goodbye the Sachsenring for another year. Nice and dry now. Conditions look absolutely perfect. They went at the start of the MotoGP race, but it has from the same familiar result as we have seen throughout the 2014 seasons as the riders walked past us on their way to the podium. Greg had a bit of a heart attack. I think he thought he had to do the interviews then. No, they go to the podium. You're all right, Greg.
I sort of knew they did, but I just had this funny feeling, just in case. I thought I'll stand up just to make
Over
sure.
The Gregory Haynes doing, we've got the riders, but they'll have to ask themselves the questions. They go on the podium first.
But it is the summer break. I'm off on holiday.
Yeah.
No, not really. We've still got the podium coming up then. So just approaching 3 o'clock local time. Now then, attention turns to the World Cup final for Germany.
For the German fans, doesn't it?
6 hours to go.
But if they can perform as well as Marc Marquez, that Jules Rimet trophy will already be in their hands. He wins his 9th successive Grand Prix in 2014, his 5th consecutive win here at the Sachsenring. Can he be beaten in the second half of the season? We start next time out at Indianapolis, the Motor Speedway, in 4 weeks' time.
And then it all went rather calm.
It did, didn't it?
What a day. What a day. 2 dry races in Moto 3 and Moto 2. And then the rain comes down right on cue, just about 25 minutes before the start of MotoGP. And I think we knew it was going to happen, didn't we? We knew they'd all be diving into the pit lane because it was too dry to remain out there on wet weather tyres. But just the whole spectacle of it all. 14 riders pouring out of the pit lane, including these three at the start of this race. And listen to the chants from the crowd here.
There we go. Jorge Lorenzo in third place. Another win for the factory Honda team. In second place, Dani Pedrosa. Top step of the podium as he has been all races this season. Marc Marquez does it again. So the Constructors' Trophy, that's gone to the same team every time round. Honda do it once again. The Repsol Honda team, a clean sweep of victories. The opening 9 rounds of the championship. Jorge Lorenzo back on the podium, just the 3rd podium finish of the season for the Yamaha rider. And in second place, to cement his second place in the World Championship, he signed a new 2-year contract with Honda. It's Dani Pedrosa.
Yes, and the 3rd Repsol Honda 1-2 of the season. Texas, Argentina, and now here in Germany as well.
But he has destroyed the opposition once again. He's a 125 world champion. He's a Moto2 world champion. He's a MotoGP world champion. He's won the opening 9 rounds of the 2014 season. We salute Marc Marquez.
Pedrosa gönnt sich noch einen kräftigen Schluck. Bevor er noch etwas angemischt wird. Und dann stehen sie nochmal oben zusammen, die Top 3 des Indie-Motorrad-Kombi von Deutschland in der MotoGP.